Hi guys, Margot and I would like to welcome you to the city of Ember. We are going to read chapter 12. You can find that on page 155. The title of the chapter is A Dreadful Discovery. About a week after he and Lena had seen the man come out of the mysterious door, Dune was assigned to fix a clog in Tunnel 207. It turned out to be easy. He undid the pipe, rammed a long, thin brush down it, and a jet of water spurted into his face. Once he'd put the pipe back together, he had nothing else to do. So he decided to go out to Tunnel 351 and take another look at the locked door. It was strange, he thought, that no announcement about a way out of Ember had come. Maybe that door had not been what they thought that it was. So he set out for the south end of the pipeworks. When he came to the roped-off passage in Tunnel 351, he ducked in and walked along through the dark, feeling his way. He was pretty sure the door would be locked as usual. His mind was on other things. He was thinking of his green worm, which had been behaving oddly, refusing to eat and hanging from the side of its box with his chin tucked in. And he was thinking about Lena, whom he hadn't seen for several days. He wondered where she was. When he came to the door, he reached absently for the knob, and what he felt startled him so much that he snatched his hand away as if he had been stung. He felt again, carefully. There was a key in the lock. Excuse me. Pardon me. For a long moment, Dune stood as still as a statue. What type of figurative language is that? He stood as still as a statue. Did you say simile? Good. Then he took hold of the doorknob and turned it. Very slowly, he pushed on the door. It swung inward without a sound. For a long moment, Dune he opened it only a few inches, just enough to peer around the edge. What he saw made him gasp. There was no road or passage or stairway behind the door. There was a brightly lit room whose size he could not guess at because it was so crowded with things. On all sides were crates and boxes, sacks and bundles and packages. There were mounds of cans, heaps of clothes, rows of jars and bottles, stacks of light bulb packages. Piles rose to the low ceiling and leaned against the wall, blocking all but a small space at the center. In that small space, a little living room had been set up. There was a greenish rug, and on the rug an armchair and a table. On the table were dishes smeared with the remains of food, and in the armchair facing Dune was a great blob of a person whose head was flopped backward, so all that Dune could see of it was an up-thrust chin. The blob stirred and muttered, and Dune, in the second before he stepped back and pulled the door closed, caught a glimpse of the fleshy ear, a slab of gray cheek, and a loose, purplish mouth. That day, Lena had more messages to carry than ever. There had been 5 blackouts in a row during the week. They were all fairly short. The longest was 4.5 minutes, Lena had heard. But there had never been so many so close together. Everyone was nervous. People who might ordinarily walk to someone's house were sending messages instead. Often they didn't even come out into the street but beckoned to the messenger from their doorway. By 5 o'clock, Lena had carried 39 messages. Most of them were more or less the same. I'm not coming to the meeting tonight. Decided to stay home. Or, I won't be in to work tomorrow. Instead of meeting me in Clothing Square, why don't you come to my house? The citizens of Ember were hunkering down, burrowing in. Fewer people stood around talking in groups under the lights in the squares. Instead, they would pause briefly to murmur a few words to each other and then hasten onward. Lena was on her way home to Mrs. Murdo's. She and Poppy had moved in with all of their things when she heard rapid footsteps. Startled, she turned and saw Dune racing toward her. At first, he was so out of breath that he couldn't speak. "What is it? What is it?" said Lena. The door in 351. I opened it." Lena's heart leapt. "You did?" Dune nodded. "Is it the way out?" Lena whispered fiercely. "No," Dune said. He glanced behind him. Clutching Lena's arm, he pulled her into a shadowy spot on the street. "It doesn't lead out of Ember," he whispered. "It leads to a big room." Lena's face fell. "A room? What's in there?" "Everything. Food, clothes, boxes, cans, light bulbs, stacks of them. Everything. Piles and piles up to the ceiling." His eyes grew wide. "And someone was in there, in the middle of it all, asleep." "Who?" "Who?" A look of horror passed over Dune's face. "The mayor, conked out in a big armchair with an empty plate in front of him." "The mayor?" Lena whispered. "Yes, the mayor has a secret treasure room in the pipeworks." All right, I have to pause here, guys. We're going to pick up the same chapter in just a second. I have to plug in my computer. It's dying. So here's part 1, signing off. We'll see you in a minute.